This is Dave Palumbo with a very special RX Muscle tribute show to the late Mr. Olympia, Shawn Rhoden. Joining us today, we have a celebrity panel here of friends of Shawn. Chris Aceto, his coach, Stan De Longeaux, lived with him, trained with him. Sergio Oliva Jr., Brad Rowe, and Chris Psycho Lewis, who trained him for his Olympia victory. Guys, thank you for joining us today. And I know this has been a hard couple days for all of us. Chris Aceto, you want to start?
Yeah, first thing I'd like to start is take that Shawn Ray fucking crap video down, because you know what, Dave, Shawn Ray comes on, God only knows why he's on RX Muscle, but we're trying to honor Shawn Rhoden. And Shawn Ray's on there saying, quote, he had a drug recreation, implied he had a drug problem.
Yeah, that wasn't true, obviously.
It's not true. Listen, it's a big deal.
Everything
because Shawn Ray is coming on. The guy's dead two days later. He had a drug problem. Oh, really? He did? This is from a guy who's got an infidelity problem, who sent his mother to jail, and who's hated by everybody. Whose boss, Jake Wood, I hope we're live so it's not edited, had to metaphorically kick his ass on video for being a shitty commentator and not doing his job. You know, I wish they actually had some views on that show where Jake brought him out to the woodshed and kicked his ass.
We can do a whole show about how shitty Shawn Ray is, but what I don't understand, Dave, is why the fuck do you want him on the show? Like, why do you yourself want Shawn Ray speaking about anyone? That would be like if you died, Dave, and you had Steve Blackman do a tribute video on you to talk about why you died. Like, it just doesn't make sense why you want him on. Well, does he really get that much views? Does he get that much views?
Yeah, that show is done more to talk about the health of the industry, not to talk about Shawn Rhoden. I don't know why Shawn Ray made it about Shawn Rhoden. And
the person you want to talk to about the health of the industry and the sport is Shawn Ray?
Well, Shawn Ray came on at the behest of the IFBB and wanted to discuss what can be done for the athletes so that we don't see more guys dropping dead. And that's the problem, because there's an underlying problem with people not checking their health. And I'm not saying that this might not be the case with Shawn Rhoden. We don't know, because first of all, Shawn wasn't even competing. But I'm talking about guys at shows that are passing, like George Peterson, and that could be avoidable. And I'm all for health checks. I'm trying to, at this point, have the IFBB mandate health checks before people get their pro card every year via health screening, and that was what that show was about. It wasn't about.
It all sounds great. It all sounds great, and I agree with everything you said. But again, why Shawn Ray?
Because Shawn Ray is connected to the IFBB, and if Jim Mannion is going to hear everything that we're saying, and I talked to Jim Mannion today, by the way, he called me after the show. He was happy with the fact that we're bringing up the topic, and it's going to be discussed what could be done because we have to stop this. We know that bodybuilding has dangers involved with it, and you know what? If these athletes are not going to take it upon themselves to go to the doctors and address issues and come to grips with the fact that maybe they can't do the stuff that they're doing, then it has to be mandated by the IFBB, because you know what? Sometimes people just need a kick in the ass to go to the doctor, and we could have had a lot of avoidable deaths. And that's not what the topic of this show. This show is a tribute show. I could defend what I did because
we want to make it perfectly clear. Yeah. Shawn Rhoden did not use recreational drugs whatsoever.
He didn't drink, do drugs.
Thank you, Stan.
He had health insurance. He was, doing follow-ups.
So having said that, you see the impact that has. You see we can't even have a tribute show because we're all so pissed that people are close to him. Yeah. That a guy's been dead 2 fucking days, and Shawn Ray, at the behest of the IFBB, comes on and says, maybe he was doing heroin. I don't want to say it, but some people say,
do that show after.
Maybe he was doing perks. Maybe he was doing pot and perks. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. He was a drug user.
Well, I don't think that was the main gist of the interview. I think the gist of the interview was that, is it healthy?
It shows you who Shawn Ray is. It shows you who Shawn Ray is. This is the same guy when Dallas McCarver died, by the way, folks. On MD, he posted a picture of the Grim Reaper. Yes. Giddy. Anyone want to confirm that?
No, he did.
That's confirmed. That's confirmed. Yeah.
And then what I always wondered, because I
So where is this? Where is this like expertise from the guy who, you know, that's the character of the guy who's the liaison, whose own boss. I don't understand what the catch is when Sergio says, "Why Shawn Ray?" This is the guy whose boss, Jake Wood, had to take him on TV. I don't know if you guys saw that, and kick him in the ass and say, "Why all the hate?"
Yeah, you're right.
He's still filled with hate.
Yeah, it sucks because it's such a distraction because we should be talking about all the good things about Shawn. But Dave, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people mad about that show already. Guy Cisternino is literally going to go look for Shawn at the San Diego Expo that we're going to have in a couple weeks and beat the shit out of him. There's a lot of people generally upset. And right, it's funny because we all want to fight Shawn Ray. Why not post that video after the tribute? Why are we such in a rush to hear Shawn Ray before Shawn's friends?
Right.
I don't get it. I don't understand why Shawn Ray is, oh my God, let's get the video of Shawn Ray up because we're all waiting, anticipating for Shawn Ray's words about Shawn Rhoden, who hates him. Like, Dave, you know that Shawn Ray did not like Shawn Rhoden, right? You knew that.
No, I didn't know that personally, but yeah.
Okay,
but
so they dislike each other very much, very much. So you have someone's enemy come on. I get it. Okay, right. Jim Manning wants it. That's what they want. They want him to be somehow the voice of bodybuilding. But why first? And, you know, I was even going to come on here, too, and I was even going to say, I really appreciate how you took your time. You didn't rush to put a video out like every single other person did because you wanted to do one with Aceto first, and then you wanted to do one with his friends. But to rush the Shawn Ray video, now it's kind of just like killed this whole thing. And, you know, now we went from being sad. We're all just mad that now we had to watch Shawn Ray speak for Rhoden.
Right. Well, I put that aside. That was done, like I said, to make put forth an effort by the IFBB to do health screen. That's why I did the video. Chris Aceto and I did a heavy muscle radio show prior to that on Monday talking about...
And it was great.
Yeah, and that was the tribute show. And I wanted to get you guys on here because you guys were the closest guys to Shawn Rhoden. You were his best friends. Stan lived with him. You guys trained with him. Let's talk about Shawn Rhoden and what made him a great person. Forget Shawn Ray because it's irrelevant at this point, you know?
Right.
Chris, when you called me up, Chris Lewis called me up and asked me right when we first announced it because I had heard from Chris Aceto what happened. And I mean, you were hysterical on the phone, Chris Psycho Lewis. I mean, I know that Shawn Rhoden and you were super close at one point. I mean, you trained him for the Olympia in the gym every single day. I mean, talk to us about your relationship.
Well, Shawn is a very tough egg to crack. He just doesn't let everyone in. And because Shawn has a huge, huge heart. And I don't know how much I can express how of a good person this guy was. I'm sorry.
Okay.
How much of a good person he was. And I think the anger that Sergio's giving you and Stan's giving you, because I don't know if you were close to Shawn, you can't say anything bad about this person. Like it's just impossible. He doesn't give you any ammunition to put him down. And so we don't mean to attack you, but if you really knew this person, you really knew him, and like I said, if I talk to a fan of Shawn, I'm perfectly fine. But when I watch Sergio crying on this thing or Stan, it's uncontrollable because they really know who Shawn was. And he would give you the shirt off of his back in an instant with a blink of an eye. And it's just really hard when someone attacks him.
Right.
He wasn't perfect, but he was not an evil, demented drug user person. He wasn't. This guy would give you all of his time, all of everything. And like I said, I compare him to Jay Cutler. This guy we were training one day in the gym. Stan will remember this. And it was a paraplegic in a wheelchair, and he was there. And I turned around and go, where the hell is Shawn? And Shawn was over there talking to that guy for 18 minutes. 18 minutes he stopped to talk to him and give him all of his time. And that wasn't an isolated incident. This guy, he cared and loved everybody. And that's the hard part when somebody shits on him or speculates and they don't know. That's the hard part. If you really knew this guy, you cannot hate him. It's just impossible. Anybody that hates Shawn, they're jealous of him.
Of course.
They're jealous.
100%.
He's jealous. He's so relaxed. Nothing can move this guy. Nothing. And he hides pain so much. And Stan will know, when we were training for the Arnold, he was so focused and so dedicated that Aceto hopped on a plane and said, I need to see if these pictures are actually what I'm seeing. And he flew out just to look at Shawn, just to look at him. How long was it? 24 hours, Chris, or a day or two?
I stayed for 1 day.
1 day. And he was giving his all. And I'm telling you, this guy had bleeding ulcers, and Stan and I didn't know it because he doesn't show any pain. He doesn't. He masks his pain. He hides it. He takes it on the chin. And we would train. I think we trained the day before, and we did. Stan, how many workouts did we do doubles back to back? How many was it?
It was like over 14 workouts in 7 days.
Wow.
7 days. 2 hour plus workouts with me just going. And one time we finished, and Shawn walked outside, and he was sitting in the car, and I went back inside, and I came out 20 minutes later, and the car was still sitting there running. And I walked up to the window, and Shawn, I said, Shawn, are you okay? Yeah, man, I'm just tired. And it blew me away. Because Aceto will tell you, he would never say he's tired. He would never complain. He never bitched about cardio, nothing. And then I was ready. The next thing I know, he was in the hospital.
Yeah, that's when
people doubted it. People said, "Oh, he's faking. Oh, he didn't look good. Oh, he looked incredible." And
Stan, one of those people was Shawn Ray. Actually, he said he was making it up because he wasn't going to be ready for the Arnold, so he made it up.
He was going to. What'd you say, Stan?
He probably looked better for the Arnold than he even looked at the Olympia.
Really?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Shawn was it 5 weeks out or 6 weeks out?
5 weeks.
He was walking around in the gym in a tank top. And I'm not talking about just the arms. I'm talking about a slingshot tank top showing all of his sides and everything.
Wow.
He was totally in shape.
Yeah.
But people doubted him then. That this guy, he had the ability like no other to use fat for fuel. He could actually get bigger and harder at the same time. And one more story. I lived in the same building with Shawn for years. And I'm walking up the driveway, and I'm with somebody, and they say, "Hey, there's Shawn." I said, "That's not Shawn. That's his brother, I think. Because his brother tall and slender." And he goes, "No, that's Shawn." I said, "That's not Shawn. He's just wearing the same shirt as Shawn." And I get up and I say, "Crap, it's Shawn." I said, "Hey, Shawn, what's going on?" He goes, his mouth was wired shut. And I had never seen any pro bodybuilder this small before. It was the smallest thing. So we devised a plan, and I don't want to take too much time. We devised a plan. We're going to train in Oxnard. And then he says, "Hey, Chris wants me to send pictures." So we go out by the pool. Remember this, Stan? And he takes his clothes off, and I say, "Fuck. What the fuck is this shit?" Stan, how did he look?
Well, he was skinny fast.
He looked horrible. I mean, horrible. Like not even 15. Like he's not gonna make it. And with so much confidence, he says, Aceto sends pictures every day, and he smiled. Shawn didn't doubt it one bit that he wasn't gonna make it.
How was he eating his food if he had his mouth wired shut?
I tell you that.
Blending it.
I gave him he had a blender, and I gave him my blender, $1,000 blender to mix up his food. But he still couldn't keep the weight on.
Blend the burger, the fries.
Right.
He blended a burger and fries in there?
Yeah, salmon, anything.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Salmon, burger, and fries. And never once did he complain.
Wow.
Never once did he doubt Aceto. Never once did he doubt himself. And this guy transformed. I've never seen anything like that. And for us to do, for Shawn was to come up at fifth was incredible.
Right.
And one more thing I want to say, as far as abusing anabolics, I did every fucking injection, and I would say to myself, "Is this fucking it?" And Shawn said, "I don't need much, bro. I don't need much." And that's the truth. Stan?
Oh, 100%. You know, like fucking from day one. And it wasn't even just you do the injection. So it's not one of those things that you don't know where you're injecting for him. Shawn would show up to his workout, hand you the fucking bottles, you'd have to fill them yourself, and you're like,
Right.
fucking women in the industry taking more than he was.
Yes.
You know, and you'd see him at like 4 weeks out from a show, and you'd be like, he's not gonna be fucking ready. There's no fucking way. And in 4 weeks, somehow he converts from this skinny, fat human being to this fucking freak. It was the most frustrating thing in the world from a fucking genetically underdeveloped white boy who just had to kill himself day in and day out to see how he would fucking change his body and just change so quick.
Chris Aceto, is that because he had such good, because he was so good naturally? Because he was a natural, guy for years. He won natural shows.
But he was natural like 3/4 of the year anyway.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
And then two is, let's not just put all genetic. One time I went to Sean's apartment and he had all this fish on a tray and it was like maybe 1 ounce. And I said, hey, Shawn, you gonna eat that? He says, I'm gonna eat it. He ate every ounce, every bit of cardio, every rep. He did it all. He did the work too. So what you see in Shawn Rhoden was a mixture of genetics and hard work. The guy did it all.
Can you take a pause? You hear from Chris Cycle Lewis. He used to give him his injections. Stan said that he was natural 3/4 out of the year. And Brad said he took nothing. So they're all either 3 liars or they're not lying. And it poo-poos this stupid idea of like health screening because of Shawn Rhoden, because I already said on our show, Dave, that what he was put through, his inability to make a living, his inability to compete, that's what killed him. Let's just be blunt. And you can ask these guys.
Well, health screen. I mean, just because you don't take a lot of drugs doesn't mean you have an underlying heart condition.
Come on,
I mean, people have underlying heart conditions that don't work out.
He may, but you know what? What is the opposite, dude? I mean, you're trying to discount the idea that I put it right up there in the face. That people wouldn't let him compete. Died of a broken heart. Guy, his DNA has got like bodybuilding all the way through it. He's at the Olympia, smiling, meeting people, encouraging his, people who he used to beat. He's encouraging amateurs, all that stuff to the nth degree because he loves this sport. And you can't do it. There's consequences of, I use that analogy and it's dead on. You can't make a living and you have no way to make money. And that's a stress. And then the monumental stress of, you can compete, you can't compete. You can compete, you can't compete. You're not going to be able to compete versus 4 guys right here, 5 of us, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, said the guy was on chiclets for God's sakes. And people won't believe it. And who cares?
Believe it.
Who cares? But it's, what? We want to pay tribute to Shawn. But that's just me. I'm placing a blame where, because people want to blame something and they want to blame anabolics thinking like he's on like 10 gazillion milligrams and here we all are. And I haven't spoken to any of these guys. And here they come independently and say, Shawn took chiclets for God's sakes. Yeah. They laugh. Brad laughs at his lack of genetics compared to Shawn that, that Shawn could get by on that. Right. So there could be an underlying heart disease. You know what? There could be an underlying heart condition and the stress of not being able to compete, the stress of not being able to make money.
Of course, there's no that's definitive. But my point is just health screening so that we don't miss something that could be there.
All of us.
I'm not saying that you're not right. I'm saying that if there was something there,
right. And all of us want to honor Shawn,
right.
And that's what we want to do. But all of us, because we're so damn close to him,
of course,
and we respect him so much. We are sad, but we are angry because we all feel like we don't have to be here.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's the whole thing behind all this. Like fuck the IFBB the way they treated him. Fuck the justice system. You want to talk about systemic racism. Let's look at this case and how things were dragged out and how they had fucking nothing for evidence whatsoever to charge him, but wouldn't clear his name. People don't understand the other shit that Shawn dealt with outside of just that case. stress kills people.
Yeah.
You look at like NFL head coaches, one of the most stressful jobs in the world. They die left and right from heart attacks, from the stress that he's under. And this man had everything in his life taken away at the same exact time that he had a child and wanted nothing to do but provide for her. You add all of that together, and that's how he died, you know, and it's unfortunate. And it's fucked up how the industry just completely turned their back. We're no longer a country of guilty until proven innocent. You know, you're guilty until proven guilty, essentially. And
we're in a cancel culture. Everyone wants to cancel everyone. It's the truth.
Yeah, but this should bother every single bodybuilder. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are watching this show that don't like me, don't like Aceto, don't like any of us. And you could literally just shut your eyes and pretend it's someone else talking. You would hear us saying, why isn't this bothering everybody in the industry? Because going forward, why wouldn't this happen again? Why wouldn't all of a sudden some woman get mad at someone that they didn't get what they wanted, and then they just make up a lie? And I wanted to talk about a story. I'm sure the person would let me say who it was, but just so I don't have to worry about it, there's another person who placed in the top 3 at the Olympia consistently their whole career. And this person was around before there was social media, before there was TMZ. And the same exact thing happened to them. But we don't know about it. No one knows about this. One of the bodybuilders, top bodybuilders, one of the greatest bodybuilders ever, had a rape charge against them. And you know what he did? Because there's no social media. It was like 3 or 4 weeks before the Olympia. He literally hid from the cops for 3 or 4 weeks, got on the Olympia stage, made sure that he did the Olympia, got off stage after it was done, went and turned himself in, and then after a while, the charges were dropped because they didn't have anything. But he still competed because it didn't blow up on social media and there was no TMZ. And this has happened several times in the sport, but a lot of the fans today, I preach this all the time, they've only been watching bodybuilding for 5 years. There's plenty of bodybuilders that raped people in the 90s, but it just got squashed and we don't even know about it because there was no social media. Shawn just happened to be during the time where once you say something, it's out there. And it's happening with all sports. You can just say someone did something, once someone put their hands on another person, you look at, even though the case is dropped, Shawn's case is the worst because he never got to clear his name. But there's plenty of times where the case is dropped, but you still look at them, you're like, man, you know what? Ray Lewis still did stab somebody. You know, there's plenty of cases in the world where you still look at people like, I still believe it. And that's the shitty part about Shawn, is that it just happened to be during the time of social media. So this should bother everybody. But it doesn't matter if I'm saying it or anyone else is saying it. Why is this not going to happen again? I think it is going to happen again.
But more importantly, usually when there's this type of allegation towards someone, there's like 10 or 20 or more of the woman that comes out of the wood, and
at least one more.
Yeah, it's been 3 years. We haven't heard anyone else, right?
Or to have his ex-wife say that Shawn, that she could never even see that happening. Michelle, you know, someone he was with forever, like he just didn't have that in his bone. If you knew Shawn, that wasn't Shawn. Shawn was the least aggressive, least forward-pushing individual you'll ever meet in your entire life. I don't think the motherfucker would even kill a fly if it landed on his face. You know, that's just not him at all.
But yeah, look how ridiculous this sounds. Angelica, the Bikini Olympia, she raped me. It sounds ridiculous. That's how ridiculous it was when you heard Shawn rape somebody. And I don't know what the difference is going forward, what we're going to do to stop this again, because it's going to happen again. And if you're telling me that there's not vindictive women and men out there that want to hurt people's career, and they know, especially when they're at the end of their career, they know, like, no matter what, this bitch knew Shawn only had realistically 4 or 5 years left. So you could just drag this shit on for a couple years. No matter what, he's coming back at 50. He's not going to win, you know? And it's just shitty that this is for sure going to happen again. And no one's talking about that. Like, no one's talking about what are we going to do? Because look, if this girl didn't have any prior charges, then fine. You know what? It's just an honest woman saying that Shawn did something. This bitch had, and people need to know this, she had a fraud case previously. Fraud, I don't know if you know, is lying. So we have this person who's already been in trouble for lying with the law, and now she just all of a sudden goes into this room with a bodybuilder and says she got raped, and we're just like, well, we got to wait till this pans out before we know who's telling the truth, and that doesn't make any sense.
It's a shame it never got to go to trial, and so he could have cleared his name. I mean, that's really, I think, what you guys are.
Yeah, I think just what you're seeing here again is people who love Shawn so much. We want to talk about the good things, but we're still so pissed. We want to fight for him, even in death, for his his everything that was taken away. His
Well,
dignity
he couldn't
was
even
taken
talk
away.
about this because he had to stay silent, obviously, which is another thing that is upsetting. He never got to
Dude,
redress
he
it.
had the ability to fucking hammer the IFBB with a lawyer, wacky big time lawyer, psycho crazy guy, and Shawn said that would be. I wouldn't want to sue the Olympia because it might be a black eye for bodybuilding and it might be bad for the other bodybuilders. End quote.
So he was thinking.
And another thing too, I hope Jim and the rest of the IFBB is watching this too, because I want them to know people talk to Shawn about going to the other IFBB league, and that needs to be known. And all he had to do was just leave, and he would have made. I mean, can you imagine how much Raphael would have gave Shawn? I mean, he would have given him $1 million. He would have been the only significant person in that federation, and he could have went, paid for Cora's fucking college and 2 competitions, and he would have had all that taken care of. But because he was innocent, he knew he was eventually going to come back to the stage. And that's more proof than anything, is having someone who would give you any amount of money right now. You just leave, but he didn't, because he knew for sure at some point he's going to come back. And the rest of the world needs to know that that's an option. You could just leave. He could have just left. And he didn't.
And to add to that, Sergio, he thought that it would water down the Olympia title. He didn't think a Mr. Olympia should be competing in shows in which would be easy to win. So there was a kind of option, but that's called, I'm saying that because it's called loyalty. He was loyal to that title. He didn't want to, quote, water it down. And he was also amazingly loyal when someone showed up, knocked on his door, and this is a fact. I will sue anyone you want me to sue. Big time bodybuilding fan lawyer law firm. And Shawn said, I wouldn't want to put the sport through that. Amazing.
Yeah.
It makes my stomach hurt.
Not thinking of himself.
Especially given the fact that he really was running out of money, I'm sure, at some point, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, they took his contract out, but he was always making ends meet. So I heard Shawn Ray was thinking he didn't have health insurance. Yeah, he had health insurance.
Look, this is the guy, dude. I mean, let's not you know what? What's that saying? Don't don't whatever. Kill a dead horse. Shawn Ray again, right? Not talking out his ass. So next time you send someone to come on your show, maybe he get his facts right. If he was coming on to talk about health screening, that's one thing. You call Shawn Rhoden a drug addict with no health insurance. It's just nonsense. And that's why, that's innuendo and bullshit. That's why I say, this is from the guy who factual just, has an infidelity problem, because I mean, those are facts as opposed to his bullshit innuendo. And you know what? They should be ashamed for sending him over. Actually,
I want to ask Stan a question. Stan,
Jake should retake him out to the fucking, wood pile and kick his ass again.
Let me ask you a question, Stan, because you lived with Shawn, and a lot of people ask me, Shawn Rhoden was Mr. Olympia. What is he living with someone else for? How did that whole relationship come about?
We became really close over the years, and when COVID happened, I moved away to Chicago. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
With my girlfriend, and then I wanted to move actually to Boca to train around, Flex Lewis, like kind of another type of Mecca. And at the time, like Flex already decided he was going to move to Vegas. We hadn't told anyone. And then an opportunity to move to Chicago, so I moved to Chicago. And then when the Dragon's Lair, when Flex opened the gym in Vegas, Shawn decided to move here, so I decided to join him too. And we decided it would make sense to just be together and have a nice house instead of like being apart. And Shawn is always late, so it's much easier to eat. Not same spot.
But even when Shawn was here in California, it wasn't rare for him to spend the night at Stan's house instead of driving back to Santa Barbara. So them staying together didn't shock me. Living together didn't shock me at all.
No, but that just shows you that Shawn doesn't think he's better than anyone. That was the point I wanted to say. He had a friendship with you, and he enjoyed your company so much that he was willing to, live in the same house with you. That's awesome,
I mean, yeah, especially from him, because he doesn't let many people.
No, he doesn't let anyone in, from what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more Stan than Shawn for sure.
Brad, what was your relationship with Shawn?
I mean, our relationship started at end of 2012. You know, he had come out to Venice the first time to train. We just met each other at the gym, and he found out that I was running a meal prep company. So, you know, he asked me to make some meals for him. So I started cooking for Shawn for a little bit when he was out here visiting. And then one day he just, I don't even know how it happened, but we just ended up working out together with Charles. And next thing you know, we spent almost 3 years together as workout partners. And, you know, during that time, Chris Lewis was training with us at the same time for one prep. You know, it was me, Shawn, and Chris all training together under Charles. You know, so I mean, we were together every day. It was, you know, 4 o'clock every single morning at Gold's Gym to take photos to send to Chris. And then we'd train like around 12 or 1 o'clock every day. Well, it was supposed to be at 12, but Shawn would show up at 1. So, you know,
the flex wheeler, yeah.
And that's Shawn, man. You know, just my entire pre-workout meal would be completely digested. I'm going hypo by the time he's walking in the gym. And that's kind of why we stopped training, because I got so busy.
I remember Brad would be so pissed off.
Yo, because Brad is the most OCD.
I'm the most punctual person.
Yeah.
You guys are the worst to be paired up together. You're the most OCD person, Brad, I've ever met. You're the most on-time person ever. And then Shawn is the complete opposite. Absolutely.
Well,
And Shawn would walk in
Chris, didn't Flex Wheeler used to just sit in the parking lot looking for a spot in the front, and he would come in late all the time to his workouts.
That's
So
true.
just to drive Charles Glass
thing.
crazy, right?
Shawn would do the same thing. He'd sit there for like 35, 40 minutes just chilling, waiting for that spot. And it's like, bro, come on. I'm dying here. So,
a couple times Charles Glass just left.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, he just bounced. Like, I'm out of
He
here.
just left. Yeah, he wasn't going to wait.
That's good.
So, but yeah, I mean, so we trained together all when I was coming up, you know, the final run, me turning pro, and then through my rookie year, you know, I qualified for the Olympia in 15, and we trained together going into that. So it was a special experience, you know, and like everybody said, Shawn's one of those people that he celebrated your victories way more than his own. You
Absolutely.
know, he cared more about you. You know, he was obviously one of my biggest idols, one of those people that you look up to, but Shawn was probably my biggest cheerleader at the time.
Shawn was always as interested, if not more interested, when speaking with me of how is Brad doing or how's Stan doing, than about himself.
That's great.
You know, and he'd say like, you know, I can't do Shawn's, you know, Brad's coming along, you know, or, you know, Stan, you know, Stan's gonna jump into the open. You know what I mean? He just, his subtle energy, you know, it's not in his energy, you know, you know what encompasses my description of Shawn is that he, you know, you get to meet people, but with Shawn, you get to meet him and you get to meet his soul. And he gives everything to people he cares about. And he cared deeply about Brad and Stan and Chris and Sergio. I mean, always, you know, he just, you know, he could be preparing, or he was preparing for shows that were huge, you know, have an impact on him. And he'd be concerned, you know, you think Stan's on time? You think Brad's on time? You know, how's Sergio doing? And that's just the way he was.
And you know what's interesting, because I've interviewed him, you know, multiple times over the years, and I almost got the impression that like bodybuilding wasn't that important to him. And then the one time I interviewed him after he got it, remember when he had the ulcers and he came back from that, and he was so animated and he was so adamant about the fact that I'm going to prove to everyone that I am going to, you know, I am in this, I'm going to be better than anyone's ever seen me. And that's when I really realized for the first time that this guy loves bodybuilding and he really wants to be Mr. Olympia. That nonchalant attitude was just his persona, that's all.
It's just him, you know, people thought Shawn was stoned all the time or he had no personality. And it was funny that Stan made the same post that I did about it. It was like, I used to fucking fight with Shawn because he's hilarious. He has such a great sense of humor. He's very loving, but he doesn't open up much. And like when we were first starting to train together, you know, social media was kind of starting to pick up. I fucking hated it. He hated it. So we didn't film each other, but I used to yell at him all the time. Like, Shawn, just open up. If fans got to know who you were, you'd be the biggest superstar in this sport. Easily, hands down, because he was so caring, so loving, so funny. And he was just very quiet and very soft-spoken. So not a lot of people really got to know who Shawn was and
Publicly,
what really drove him.
Yeah. Now, publicly, he was very quiet, but like when he was in private or small circle, he was always.
He was a different person when he was around his friends. Totally different person.
And that was something that was also pretty nice. Is just like as I was, getting closer to him, he would get comfortable in front of the camera, like me just pulling my phone and start recording things. And I think that was one of the great. I mean, I have so many memories. I really want to have the opportunity to share with people. Like over the years, I probably have like hours and hours of footage, and so much that's never been shared.
He went to like all these guys' shows. I mean, I don't even go to like people's shows.
I know. What did I just text you? I just texted you yesterday because I was going through pictures, trying to find pictures, and I realized he went to every single one of my shows but one.
Wow.
I never realized until last night. I texted Chris because I was just trying to find pictures to post. I'm like, holy shit, New York, holy shit, Tampa, holy shit, Legion, Arnold, Olympia, everything. It's so wild. And exactly, Aceto won't even go
on his own dime too, Sergio, right?
Every single one he was dieting. I mean, except for
on his
Legion,
own dime. I mean, he paid his own flight and everything like that. No one was flying.
Oh yeah,
in.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
But we did. We all loved hanging out. And look, that also is a testament to Aceto, too. I know this is about Shawn, but a lot of things we've even said about Shawn and how he's able to do things is because of Aceto. And he instills this in confidence in us, and he does. He makes us feel a certain way. And then when we're all together, Shawn would call it his Fab Five. When we're all together, you can finally just be yourself. So it was kind of like actually a little mini vacation to hang out with your friends. We're just all dieting and eating chicken and fish.
Chris, Aceto, how did Shawn actually come to you for the first time and ask you to work with him? Do you remember the story?
Yeah, I know it. Like, it's remarkable, is because he's never changed his cell phone number since then. He went to Europe, and he went out and hung out with Jay Cutler till 6 a.m, and he told Jay, "I want to be Mr. Olympia." And Jay said, "If you want to be Mr. Olympia, here's Chris's number." And he called me. I was backing up in my driveway, and a 202 number came up, and I said hello, and he said, "This is Shawn Rhoden, the pro bodybuilder. I just spent the last 12 hours with Jay Cutler. I just landed 2 seconds ago. I have not gone to baggage claim. I want to be Mr. Olympia. I mean it." And Jay said to give you a call, and I could just feel two things. I could feel the sincerity, and I could feel the I could feel the vision on the phone. Like, a lot of people say, "I want to be this," but there was just such a cadence of the way he talked about he had this plan. And I said, "Well, let's give it a shot, but let's start." And that's how it all began, with the phone call and
Chris Lewis, how did you start training him?
Like Brad said, we were all training partners, and then Shawn would come a little too late for Brad. Then Brad left, and then it was just Shawn and I. And then, like I said, Charles would cut out. Charles had to leave because Charles lived over an hour away from Goals, and Charles gets there every morning at 3 a.m., rain or shine, Sunday morning. And then it was left with just me and Shawn. And then we devised this plan because he was trying to stay closer to Michelle, and he didn't want to train at Goals. He wanted to train away from Goals. And then we devised this plan. We found a gym, and then Stan said, "Hey, you mind if I ride with you?" And I said, okay, you can ride with me. And Stan was a really good sparring partner with Shawn. Like Shawn has this thing. Shawn does the minimum until he's with somebody that gives 100%. And Shawn has this inner fight in him that he cannot let Stan outlift him. Like it would bother him. But he wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't taunt him. He would just say, put some more on. And that's how it started. And then I was like, Stan, do you want me to drive? And I said, no, I want you to sleep because I want you to kick Shawn's ass. And we did it. So that's why I never let you drive. I wanted you to be totally rested when we got there. And we drove over an hour plus one way, never late once, always on time, killed the workouts, and then we had to get right in the car and then go back. Because I had to train Dexter.
Wow.
And it was like and I even broke my toe on that prep. I pulled the weight off, and it was a 10 in front of 45 when it bam. And I just said, oh well, I got a broken foot for the next 10 weeks. We didn't miss one workout, like not one.
How many days a week were you driving there?
See, Shawn would do this thing like he didn't have any set days. Shawn would just go and go and go and go until he needed a rest, or until Michelle made him take a rest. Shawn would run himself in the ground. Like he didn't believe 3 days on, 1 day off, 5 days on, 2 days off. He didn't believe in that. And so he would just go. And then I remember when we finally found the sweet spot, because I would call Aceto for hints. And Aceto and Jay they're both the same. They won't tell you what to do. They'll give you a nice suggestion. And Chris, do you remember what you said to me? You said,
I said, kill him.
Kill him. You said,
I said he'll because I know if you push him hard, he'll push back. You know, if you push him, he'll push back. So I said, if the option is there's no option, just kill him. No one else would I say that to, because you destroy him.
Yeah.
Well, you telling somebody named Psycho to kill somebody.
Yeah.
You said kill him. He can take it.
I remember that day.
You said his body is used to it. He can take it.
Yep.
And I said, you sure?
The more you push him, the better it looks.
Yeah. Stan, people would fall apart. If you push other people, they'd be like, what happened? We saw you 8 weeks out, you got dead last. Well, I trained with so-and-so and they killed me. Well, they did. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So everything was heavyweight, drop sets. There was no 4 sets move on. Sometimes we did 6, 7 sets of T-bar rolls. We did multiple drop sets. And his body would just change. His body would just change.
Were you falling apart, Stan, during those workouts?
Yeah, it was
2-3 hours of train, just like the hardest movements you can think of, just back to back. And we would start pull-ups, and then like T-bar rows, and then drop set with T-bar rows, and then barbell rows and dumbbell rows. And
And I would do this thing where I would pull Shawn's arm down, and one time I grabbed his wrist, and it felt like a rag doll. Like it was barely connected. I said, Shawn, what's wrong with your wrist? He said, oh, it's fucked up. But let's just keep like seriously.
Even
he did not complain.
His strap broke.
Yeah, oh yeah, he broke the strap.
Yeah.
And this guy, I used to train with Chris Cormier. Put it like that. Chris Cormier trained like an animal.
Yeah.
Shawn Rhoden was right there with Chris Cormier.
Wow.
With the intensity. And he trained like an animal and didn't complain. So he wanted more and more and more and more.
Even I don't know if you sure remember, but 2018 Olympia, after he got the ulcer at the Arnold, he had to quit. He kind of he had the time to really get back to it, and I think he was traveling with Michelle.
He was traveling with Michelle.
And we were training, you and I, and so when he came in, you wanted to ease it, bring it on and just ease things up, so he got up to speed, and we got a 3-way calls.
Yeah.
It was like, hey Chris, what's this? I need you to kill me.
Yeah. He just got back from vacation, he's traveling, and I got the $1 million boy. I don't want to break him. And he called me and said, hey, turn it the fuck up. Let's go. But in a nice way. He didn't say it with that much passion. He just was like, I want to go. And I said, hey, I said, okay, we're gonna turn it up.
Yeah.
And that's what. Then I knew we had good workouts. If he just drove off and didn't sit in the car for like 30 minutes, I knew I didn't give him enough. Like I had to make him sit in the car. That was my goal. That was it, to make him have to rest and sit in the car.
Right.
But when he was gonna be late, but when Shawn showed up, he showed up. He was there. He was there to train and not halfway train. Anytime he had cardio, never did he say, I'll come back and do it later. Never this. He went straight to the cardio and did every second of that cardio. Everything.
I see we are joined by Guy Cisternino. Welcome, Guy.
What's going on?
Guy, what's your most memorable story of Shawn Rhoden? Something that maybe people don't know about Shawn.
There's a lot, Dave. There's a lot. I don't even know where to fucking begin, to be honest with you. I mean, I helped plan his engagement for him and Michelle after the Olympia that year. I would say when he asked me to be the Godfather of Cora.
I didn't even know that. I wasn't aware of that. Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys were close.
Best friends.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. How did you meet Shawn, Guy? How did you first become friends with him?
2010, I was competing in Dallas, Europa. He got, I believe, 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 6.
I took, I believe, 5th. We were getting tanned together, and I said that you should change your name to Shaftatron because you look insane. You should be winning this show. And we talked every day from that day forward.
Wow. You just had a connection with him then.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say was Shawn's greatest attribute that maybe people don't know, being his best friend? You know, obviously you probably have tremendous insight.
His greatest attribute was pretty much everything that went against everything that Shawn Ray said on the interview with you.
Yeah, guy.
Because out of everybody that I know, and out of everybody who loved Shawn and who Shawn loved, that motherfucker is the last human being that should have ever said a word about Shawn. Because I listened to about 10 minutes of that interview and I almost chucked my fucking computer across my room because he didn't know anything about Shawn. He called him unhealthy, said he didn't have health insurance. It was all bullshit. And I actually, before I jumped on here, I posted a story and I didn't mention his name, but I said, you poked the wrong fucking bear in the wrong cage because I'm not going to let this go without a one-on-one conversation. I'm not going to do it through text. I'm not going to do it over the phone. I'm going to have a direct conversation with him because everything that he said about Shawn is the polar opposite, because that's why I loved who Shawn Rhoden was, because he was everything that Shawn Ray said he wasn't. And I'm so pissed that he would even do that, knowing that his daughter at some point is going to learn how to Google her father's name and have to see the shit that scumbag said. I cannot wait to one-on-one Shawn Ray. You poked the wrong motherfucker, bro.
What about Shawn doing recreational drugs?
What?
What about Shawn Rhoden doing recreational drugs?
Not one fucking time. He couldn't even get him to smoke a goddamn joint.
Right? Never seen it. I've never seen him do anything.
I asked him to smoke with me a million fucking times. He not once. I never seen that kid take a puff of a goddamn thing. I barely seen him take a sip of alcohol, let alone do anything else.
Yeah, it's a shame that was painted that way.
I'm just letting everybody know because that was the main reason why I wanted to come out here. Dave, I know you don't. I know you didn't know the relationship that I had with Shawn. I mean, I'm the godfather of his daughter.
I didn't know that.
And to see what that son of a bitch said about Shawn just fucking tore me up last night. I couldn't even sleep. And I'm going to have a conversation with him, whether he likes it or not. I'm not threatening him, but I'm promising him that we are going to have a fucking face-to-face conversation, because I'm not letting anybody disrespect one of my best friends that passed away. That is not going to fucking fly. Not on my watch. Not why my fucking heart's still ticking. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, we see you.
And Dave, we don't mean to attack you, Dave.
No, I
but
understand. Look, you guys.
You knew if you knew Shawn, if you really knew him, like I said before, and God will agree. If you're jealous of Shawn Rhoden, if you're mad at Shawn Rhoden, it's because you're jealous. It's because you're jealous.
There's a lot of jealous people out there too. We know
Shawn Rhoden never said as much as shit as Shawn Ray said about him. He would even bite his tongue to me about how much he hated Shawn Ray. That's the type of person that Shawn Rhoden was.
Why did Rhoden hate Shawn Ray?
If Shawn Ray passed away,
Because everyone hates him, Dave.
Because he's so negative.
You know what? Listen, holy shit.
If Shawn Ray passed away,
Guy, I'm hearing that Jim Mannion sent him on.
there's no way. No fucking way that he would have said. There's no way. No way, Jim. Jim and Shawn Rhoden had a very good relationship directly out of Shawn Rhoden's mouth. And I know that for a fact. Jim Mannion wouldn't let a piece of shit like that come on a fucking radio show and represent the IFBB and still call Shawn a fucking rapist and say that we don't even know if he's fucking innocent because he still could be guilty, but we'll never know. Fuck that guy. You don't fucking do that to somebody that's in the same industry as you that you call a fucking brother. That is called a fucking selfish piece of shit. That's what that's called. And you know what? If the shoe was on the other foot and Shawn Ray passed away, that would never come out of Rhoden's mouth. Rhoden would have praised that motherfucker 6 ways from Sunday, and he wouldn't deserve one goddamn ounce of it.
And the thing that bothers me, because I've been around longer than you guys, Shawn has a lot of skeletons in his closet, but we never talk about that. No one ever talks about the things he's done. They never talk about Greg Reed, how Greg Reed knocked him out in the third room of goals. Cold.
Well, I talked about it. I said he's got an infidelity problem. He's put his mother in jail, and what else? I had a list.
Yes, he let his mother go to jail for him.
For his recreational drug problem.
Yeah,
that's what it was. She went to jail for coke for him.
Yeah, that's the truth.
You know what? I'm gonna rephrase this. I'm gonna rephrase what I said. Shawn Ray, you poked the wrong cage full of the wrong fucking bears. How's that?
Yeah, there's a lot of us.
You know, Guy, the whole point is, you know, you missed the beginning because, of course, I had to go off on Shawn Ray, and you know, and we're here, we're here, sad, broken, and also angry. We're so angry of what happened to Shawn. He did not get to compete. You know more than anyone. You know, money issues, contracts go away, can't compete. You're competing at the Arnold. You're not competing at the Arnold.
Chris, think about this. Think about going from being somebody who had fucking superhero powers to being stripped of everything within fucking 2 months. He went from being on top of the fucking world. He went on being top of the world, $400,000 to fucking no money because of an accusation from something that we all know. If you know Shawn, he didn't fucking do it. Not being able to do the one thing that he loved, but he continued to do it every day, even when everybody told him to stop. And it was over. How is that not the greatest Mr. Olympia of all time? The guy kept going like he was competing Chris will tell you, every time I talk to Shawn, he's like, we're getting ready for this year, bro. He never stopped being a bodybuilder. How can you not sit here and say he's not one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, let alone greatest Mr. Olympia? Because in my opinion, and I love Randy, I love Brandon, if Shawn was still competing, he'd have a couple of those Sandals in his fucking living room.
Well, Steve Weinberger said the next year, if Shawn would have came in with the exact condition, he would have won again. That's what Steve Weinberger said.
Easily.
It was said. He said that. He said he would have won again. And how would that feel? For you, someone to tell you, you would have won. You would have won again. And we knew what we did to do. We knew what Shawn did to get there. Easily could have beat his conditioning and his size. Easily. And someone says you can't because someone said you can't do it.
Well, it's because, you know what, let me tell you, you know, Guy is a great friend of mine. I consider Stan a great friend. Sergio, I'm extremely close to. You know, I love you, Chris Lewis, and I don't know about you, Brad, though. I'm kidding. I love you, Brad.
You just say he's got bad genetics. That's all.
No, we love the bodybuilder Shawn Rhoden, but we love the person 10 times more than we we're bedazzled by what he did on stage. We're bedazzled what he did in the gym, and different contests. And we've all been in his hotel room. Stan, Sergio, Guy, Brad, Chris. We've been around the block. Every one of us has looked at him and just like laughed and say, "This is just off the hook, ridiculous, right, Guy?"
Yeah, nuts.
But
it's funny, we don't even think of him as the bodybuilder.
That's right. We don't think of him as a bodybuilder.
That's the last thing he was as a bodybuilder. He was way more than that.
He's the best, Guy, I get a little jealous when Guy said he's my best friend. I said, well, wait a minute. I thought I wasn't. And Brad is probably saying, like, wait a minute.
Well,
I thought we were best buddies because Shawn.
Sorry.
I know
he had that ability. He had that ability to make all of us feel like we were number one.
Yes.
All of us felt like we were number one to him.
Dude,
even in his last post, I said, Dave, I think he's speaking to me because he used the exact same words 3 weeks ago, brick by brick.
Chris, we were at the Legions. We were at the Legions, and Dexter was there, and Sergio was in the show, and I happened to look up. I was shocked. I just didn't know Shawn was going to be there, and I bumped into Shawn, and I must have spent 30 minutes drinking energy drinks and watching Shawn be at a booth. And what I enjoyed most is seeing people nervous to come up to say hello to him. Right. And Shawn would go on Shawn would spend 8 minutes with each one.
Yes.
He was like a
on the shoulder
version of a Kai Green, Chris, when it came to that.
He was what?
He was like a toned down version of Kai, just not a half hour.
He could actually answer a question straightforward too. Guys, I want to thank you all for joining us today. I mean, this show I think is going to do a lot for healing the industry because you guys were the closest guys to Shawn Rhoden, and to hear you tell the stories about how gracious Shawn was, how much he loved bodybuilding, how loyal he was to his friends, what a crazy genetic freak he was in the gym. I enjoyed the show, and I felt like I've been healed by you guys, and I want to thank you for joining us today. And obviously, we want to send prayers out to Shawn's family and friends and fans, and it's a terrible loss for us, and I'm sorry for your loss. And once again, thank you for being with us today.
I do want people to know, though, that a lot of people who probably watch this, they don't know that Shawn put on a show in the Philippines. And in the Philippines and back at his home in Jamaica, he sent a lot of money and he helped out a lot of people and a lot of poor people in those countries. And that's not talked about at all. I don't think anyone's really talked about it. But the Shawn Rhoden Classic, I think that's what it's called, right? In the Philippines.
Yeah.
That brought a lot of funding to that area. And there's a lot of little kids that he literally single-handedly, he's changed all of our lives, of course, but he single-handedly changed a lot of these poor kids' lives that they probably don't even know really what bodybuilding is, but he just brought money back to these poor little areas. And that's a huge thing because not a lot of bodybuilders are really doing that. You don't really want to put on a show where there's not going to be a lot of money, but he did. And he put that on. How many years did he put that show on?
I guess posed for it, I think in 2015.
Shit.
Wow.
Yeah, long time.
And then Shawn rarely spent money on himself. He won the Olympia driving a Nissan Sentra.
He did.
Yeah.
He's been wearing the same jerseys for 10 years.
That I gave the only fucking car wash to.
And now I hear Chris Aceto is going to drive that car now. Chris, you taking that car now?
Spend money on a fucking car wash. I had to spend 25. He still owes me $25.
Yeah.
Did you clean?
Take all those jumpsuits.
Guy, did you clean my rims on one of my cars too?
Put new labels on them.
Yes, I did.
Guy did clean my car too once. Yeah, in my driveway. He couldn't walk past
for
it.
that shit. I can't stand that. I got into Shawn's car. It was like a fucking bomb went off.
No, you cleaned. You cleaned the table, my coffee table. Did you clean my coffee table?
All the time. Couldn't tolerate it. I would straighten out your fucking shoes, your size 13s that would be, or 15s that would be fucking all over the place inside of the house. your supplements, you would have like Isolyze and fucking Fiberlize together. I would separate your body from it.
He would organize my house when he'd come over. It was great. It was better than the cleaning woman. Guys, thank you so much. I have to wrap up. I have kids that need to be watched.
But just a second for what about Sergio just said. There's a story too that shows how Shawn is a man of his word. Like the first time he went to the Philippines was a friend of his. He promised him that once he would be in the Olympia, he would come back and put a show in the Philippines. And once he made it to the Olympia, that's the first thing he did. He set up a show over there, and there was no money, there was not many competitors, but he just followed through with his words. And I just, got some message from Jim, and he said, "You never stand Shawn Ray on the show."
And I
So I
knew
don't
that
know.
too because I talked to JM today, but I didn't want to say that.
But yeah, just Jim and Shawn were very close. They were talking on a really very regular basis. So I just want people to know that Shawn loved bodybuilding. He loved many people. It was it's just a huge loss. So yeah.
You can see the effect that Shawn had on this panel and the loss of Shawn had on this panel. And I think that tells the whole story. I mean, he touched these people so greatly that grown, huge bodybuilding men are in tears. And you know what? That's the effect Shawn had. And he's going to be greatly missed. I'm Dave Palumbo with another arc.
Yeah, the wrong Shawn died in this sport. The wrong one. Should have been the other Shawn.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us.